So it's actually good news for WoW this week, because it turns out the game is absolutely popping off by at least some of the numbers, but perhaps more importantly, the game director Ian Hazzikostas has admitted to PC Gamer that maybe, just maybe, Mythic Plus does actually have some problems that they need to solve, and they say they're seriously working on them. That and a whole bunch of other things in today's news, so let's jump in. Alright, let's get into Mythic Plus. So overall, I actually am taking this as good news. Ian seems to be fully aware that M Plus is in need of some love. So what happened is this. PC Gamer ran an article on the decline of M Plus. They spoke to the Raider.io team, and they came away with a really miserable outlook. And yeah, if you look at the numbers, it's very much line go down, and that looks bad. But then they brought some of those concerns to Ian Hazzikostas, the game director. And basically, participation is dropping like crazy right now, and when people are playing high keys, it is massively limited to meta specs. And this really did surprise me. I'm not clued into that scene, but basically, it is actually just way too hard, it seems, and people need to rely on the very best specs to succeed. And that's resulted in this. Protection Paladins are tanking 93% of runs at Mythic Plus 16 or above, and one single comp, that of Prot Pala, Disc Priest, Frost DK, Ogvoker, and Ret Paladin, that's taking up 40% of all runs. That's really quite something. It basically means if you don't play one of those, good luck, and I'm certainly thinking about the God comp of Season 2 of Dragonflight. Anyway, that preference and that player behavior then bleeds down to the rest of the population. Even if you don't need to be a meta slave, you kind of get forced to because, well, it's Mythic Plus. You need to be invited by somebody. So that basically means that people kind of just quit trying. Now, going into Ian's responses is kind of fun for this one because, look, he's obviously being media friendly. But even with that, it seems they get it, and they've responded to some PTR feedback that was, well, let's just say truly alarming. Okay, so Blizzard have expected a drop-off in Mythic Plus because people can do Delves and Raid instead of M+. He did admit, though, that if people playing Mythic Plus are frustrated with it, which is fairly obvious to anyone right now, then that is a problem. And he says that he and the team have learned that data does not mean everything. Now, yes, obviously we've got bad data here, and you could totally take a non-charitable Ian just said his head is in the sand, but I don't really think it's that, because what he said is that while sometimes there are obvious balance issues, other times they'll see that non-meta specs are actually performing perfectly fine, but sometimes that's not where the community's at, and perfectly fine, very good, well that might be okay, but if people think they can squeeze out another few percent, then maybe they won't go with something perfectly fine, even if perfectly fine is actually good enough to hit their goals. So Ian admitted here that reality, reality air quotes, means nothing if the perception means that people just get declined all night because of the spec that they've chosen to play. And that seriously is a good thing for him to say. All too often what you would have is basically Blizzard having their internal simulations, all of their own stuff, and them thinking, well, this is a player-created problem. Our numbers are fine. And that could be an excuse to blame players, blame the class discords, but obviously that's not realistic and we have to deal with reality. It's good that he said that. The next big thing is difficulty, and Ian explained why they keep making the old dungeons harder. He basically said it's to put more emphasis on mechanics that were not as important as the designers wanted them to be the last time that dungeon was played, say in the Mythic Plus pool, because we've got dungeons returning to the pool, and that basically is so that one dungeon doesn't end up being an outlier compared to the others because it just is, undercooked. Now, he did say that they try to rein in pain points, and as an example, the huge tank buster buffs to Theater of Pain are likely to be reverted, which is certainly good. Now, if you're not aware, right, here's what's going on in the PTR. Just about everybody agrees that Mythic Plus is too hard and too punishing right now, but then you actually take a look at the PTR changes, and yeah, it was kind of just, hey everyone, here's a bunch of new dungeons, and they're harder now. As in, new mechanics, faster tank busters, more unavoidable AoE damage, and way more complicated boss fights. Which again, in a highly punishing game mode like M+, ends up being, stressful. Maybe too stressful to actually be fun. And perhaps even more worrying, the new dungeon that they've added has got basically some of the deadliest trash that World of Warcraft has ever seen. Don't know about you, but to me that doesn't exactly seem like fun. Okay, but there is some good news here. Ian actually gave an explanation to all of this stuff. He said this: the PTR build that went up is full of changes that Blizzard made before they acted on Season 1 feedback, right? So according to Ian, Blizzard have made significant shifts internally based on how Season 1 went, and we're going to see that in incoming PTR builds. So it's kind of interesting because the PTR can end up being a massive public relations nightmare. The community discourse for the last while has basically been, oh my god, Mythic Plus is in deep shit, and we've got a PTR build that seems to be doubling down on the things that have got it in deep shit. When at least the actual case, per Ian anyway, is no, that's just an old build. And, well, I mean, thinking about dev cycles, that's hardly a surprise to me. That means I'm expecting a boatload of nerfs soon. Now, PC Gamer then ended their article with a quote from Ian, and I'll just read it out verbatim. At the end of the day, it falls to us to create the conditions that provide everyone who wants to have a fun dungeon experience with the right level of challenge and a group to run with. As we begin the cycle, the health of Mythic Plus is a major area of focus for our design team and for game leadership. Okay, that's a fairly strong statement, and I guess we now have got to sort it out. Is Mythic Plus screwed? Is it not? I'd say that if they're actually able to act on what Ian said here, and those words really do matter, then there should be more signs of hope than doom, especially in a few PTR builds once the dungeons get reined in. So there have been healer changes and Ogvoker nerfs that look like they're solving some major meta problems. Meta problems that, by the way, were perfectly pointed out by Automatic Jack's video on just how busted Circe Circlet has been. It basically just meant you could do stuff without healers. It was kind of crazy. So with that said, is M Plus screwed or not? I'd say that right now there are loads of rough signs, but there are, I think, more signs of hope if we take Ian at his word, right? So if they're actually able to make enough changes, then we should be in a better spot. As an example, there have been recent healer changes and nerfs to Ogvoker that do, well, pretty much seem to be aimed at solving major meta issues right now. That certainly is good. This week's build was stacked with dungeon nerfs like Ian sort of promised. Hopefully more of that continues. They're removing key depletion above +12 once you hit 2850 rating, so that basically means that pushers can just grind their keys out without having to fear about a depleted key and then having to get the key back up and all that rigmarole and wasted time, which is certainly good, but to be honest, I think most people just don't want depletion anyway. You've already, lost time. There's no reason to double down and make you earn back your key. That's just dumb. But there is one nice thing, and that is that in the new patch, Mythic Plus players have finally got a top-end reward. This is a new mount that you get from Keystone Legend. That's 2850 rating, by the way, and it's not just another mid-mount, it's like a really cool goblin tank thing, so that's actually good. Big picture, though, I just think that there's a little bit of a divide here. There are some people who really crave that super hard Mythic Plus experience at the top end, but then there's people who actually want to get their character geared to the tits without having to become a super sweaty gamer with all of the weak ores and all of the things to allow them to succeed. In the same way that so many people will play Diablo 4, maybe even on hardcore with a really planned out build, but the second-to-second gameplay, well, it's not as sweaty as you get here in World of Warcraft, which is why I think Mythic Plus is kind of just caught between two different design directions. Our next big news story is absolutely a cultural one because according to Twitch Tracker, World of Warcraft is now back in the upper echelons. It really is. It's actually now the 4th most watched game on Twitch. It's been averaging 87k over the past week, which is real big. It's accumulated 14 million watch hours. It has defeated Valorant, Counter-Strike, and even Fortnite. Yeah, WoW has beat Fortnite on Twitch. Only 3 games are beating it. Those are League of Legends, Marvel Rivals, and GTA 5. Now, obviously, Twitch metrics are not everything here, but it really does reveal one thing. My God, the whole OnlyFans thing, from a marketing and reach perspective, that is some of the best performing content I have seen in such a long time. It's absolutely mad, and it's getting the Warcraft brand into everybody's brains. All of those watch hours are looking at WoW things. The Tyler 1 versus Soda Pop-In, 1v1 duel for the GM position, even just that brought in 400,000 viewers. That's a hell of a lot. And just before that, there was the pirate software thing. Yeah, that was fun. What a great situation. But hey, it's basically a reality TV show, and that was a pretty good reality TV show event, as much as there's a lot of hurt feelings and anger, I think, on a lot of sides of that. But the point basically is, ultimately, it's all content, and it's driven those numbers up. And up so much that World of Warcraft is genuinely beating out games that absolutely trounce it, at least in normal circumstances. And this is all quite well timed as well, because Season of Discovery's Phase 7 is really crawling ever closer towards a true Classic Plus experience. That's because we've got Scourge Invasions and Karazhan Crypts, which is pretty awesome. There's Mop Classic due later this year, which I think will be pretty massive. And of course, that's all in the build-up to Midnight's proper announcement, first proper look at player housing. It at least means that per the numbers that the developers will be tracking, World of Warcraft is probably off to an amazing start. Even though I'll say right now, for like the modern game, yeah, it's pretty damn sleepy, with the exception of Plunderstorm. Plunderstorm is back, and it's got a whole bunch of upgrades because it seems that at some point in the last year, the team were given a little bit of a chance to do like a mini overhaul to how some of the game systems work. So now you can choose your starting area. Mobs actually respawn, which means that you can catch up levels if you fall behind. The UI's been upgraded. It's way better, I think. And some key balance changes have also made it, I'd say, a much more smoother game. And certainly the more I play it, the more I'm beginning to enjoy some of the new abilities. As an example, the really big arcane snipe. I only realized the obvious like a few hours ago. I was caught in the middle of somebody's earthquake whenever I used the snipe because it launches you up in the air. It meant that I dodged the earthquake. All of those little things, it just comes together real well in gameplay. But of course it's a Warcraft thing, and that does mean there's a conversation over rewards that's happened. So whenever Blizzard launched the anniversary event, it was severely undertuned, and Blizzard just emergency blasted all the reward numbers up. That's not something they're going to have to do this time, because, my god, you can blast this out in no time. So the new rewards cost a total of 35,000 plunder, which, with the current tuning, is only a few hours. Like, for me, it was 3.5 hours. And, yeah, I had absolutely everything. Now, I had earned all of the things from the previous Plunderstorm, but basically now I've got the cap of 15,000 plunder, and that's it. I'm pretty much done. I'm still playing just for the fun of it. But it is fascinating looking at the responses to this, because people who do not really enjoy Plunderstorm are really happy about this, because they can hop in 1 or 2 long sessions and basically get all of the rewards that they want. I mean, if you just want like a few of the mounts, I mean, you can get the daily bonus at the start, and you'll basically have that in no time. There's absolutely no fear of missing out. It is so much faster. And even if you missed it last year, the entire store costs only 70,000 plunder. And I mean, if you're getting 3k every 15 minutes, 2.5k, which is usually what I'm kind of getting, well, that's really not going to take that long. Of course, if you're not basically committing war crimes in Plunderstorm, as I do, it will take a little bit longer, but it is way more player-friendly in that regard than it was the first time round. However, if you're one of my fellow Plunderstorm enjoyers, it does feel like a missed opportunity that there is no way to spend your excess plunder. I mean, even if it was like not on real game rewards, it would be nice to have something. But of course I get Blizzard's problem here. If they put loads of cosmetics in, like loads more or even more expensive ones, well, then there's a bit of a problem, because what if you are a collector but you just categorically hate PvP? You're going to feel like you've got to grind that out, you won't have fun, so Blizzard obviously doesn't want that. What I'd basically say is there's maybe like 2 broad things they could do. Number 1, Marks of Honor. Those are the things from PvP that let you purchase transmogs. I think Marks of Honor would be a fairly innocuous thing to get in return for your excess plunder. Another thing they could do is just have cosmetics that only apply to the Plunderstorm mode, which would basically mean that collectors for like regular World of Warcraft wouldn't have to care about that, and Blizzard could just go and do full rewards for Plunderstorm. One thing I did notice, though, is there's a cap on how much plunder you can have on your account. It's 15,000, which clearly does mean Blizzard don't want you stockpiling so much of that currency that the next time it comes around, you instantly can buy absolutely everything, which at least says, yeah, they're planning to do future Plunderstorms. Let's hope they cook a little bit more with the next one, but certainly, look, for what it is, I'm having fun. And now for a rather spicy segment. You may have seen these 2 mounts that you can't have and I can't have. There's a golden color of Alar, which is absolutely gorgeous, you know, the mount from the Burning Crusade, and then there's also the Blazing Royal Firehawk. Now, sadly, these are only available in China because of some special promotions that are going on, but the way that you get Alar is absolutely insane, so get a load of this. It has a chance to drop from a loot box that costs $27. Now, the specific details are apparently like a little bit more complicated because these are not bought directly. These are as a bonus for other purchases, and they are limited to 4. But then there's a stack of bonus boxes from friends who are also buying them, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing to make some more money, quite obviously. And Alara is not the only mount in those boxes either. There's also the Swift Spectral Tiger. Yeah, it can be in them as well. Kind of insane. A bit of a waste, but that is the sort of thing that they do with the WoW business model. Remember, in China, it is run by NetEase. It is not run by Blizzard. Certainly, if they did things like this over here, that that would be met with, I think, quite a lot of anger. But that being said, it's not like they already don't make a boatload of money from the store. As an example, I've forgotten the site off the top of my head, but it was pulling from the Armory API, and it basically worked out how many people have got the achievement for the new Brutosaur that's got an auction house and everything. And my napkin math put that to like $130 million of revenue. So you know what? I don't think that they really need to resort to the loot boxes just yet. But okay, that's the news this week, but I've got some deep dive videos for you. This one is on Delves, and you can watch it next.